Hello and welcome. You're watching Peak TV. I'm Vedant Agarwal. The man behind the very fiery and infamous Telegraph headlines now finds himself in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Overnight, the former editor of the Telegraph, an outspoken Modi critic and firebrand journalist, found himself erased from the Republic's records. He was excluded from West Bengal's SIR exercise. He was excluded from the voter list. But the consequences of that erasure, the consequences of that exclusion, didn't stop just at the polling booths or at the voter list. The consequences for Mr. R. Rajagopal were much more far reaching. He's written about it, he has spoken about it now, and his article and his shocking story really reveals the consequences, the unknown consequences and ramifications of the SIR exercise and what its impact is on the Indian democracy. Mr. R. Rajagopal, thanks very much for joining us here on Peak TV. My first question to you,
Thank you.
for those of us who might not, for those of our viewers who might not have read your article, talk to us a little bit about your story briefly and what really happened to you. When did you find out that your name has been dropped from the voter list from a city you lived in for decades, and what were the consequences of it?
Yeah. I was born in Kerala, but 30 years ago, I came to Calcutta and I've been here. In between, briefly, I was in Delhi and Bombay, but last 33 years, I have been living in Calcutta, out of which 23 years from this very flat where I'm speaking to. It's in a place called Dover Road, which is in Baliganj, Calcutta. So when this SIR happened, the rule is under SIR, either you or your biological parents or your four biological grandparents. So total 7 people, 4 grandparents, 2 parents, and yourself. So out of the 7 people, one person's name has to be there in the 2002 voters list, because 2002 was the cutoff for Bengal and the Kerala the thing. So what happened was my name I could not find in 2002, which is I think I don't find anything unusual in it, because at the time we were basically my wife and we were a young family, and we were I was in Bombay, Delhi. We were basically floating around and all that. We had settled down in Calcutta in 1996, but we hadn't decided that Calcutta will be our home. Then so when 2002, probably when the thing happened, we had a young daughter and all that. So it is quite possible that we hadn't enrolled ourselves in the 2002 list. So that was not anything. I don't suspect anything untoward happened there. But 2002, my father, who was he was from Kerala and was working in Kerala. He was a professor in Kerala, and after retirement, he was a Gandhian. He was the secretary of the Kerala Gandhi Smarak Committee. His name, I found it very, very. So his name we could not find. Actually, only me and my father were the survivors by 2002. Because the others, as my grandparents, my mother had passed away by then. So my father also passed away in 2016, but 2002 he was. So this, even today, I don't know what happened. How, because he was a very constant, regular voter. He was very socially committed and all that. I find it very difficult that he would not have enrolled himself in 2002. That anyway, I have to go to Kerala to find out the reason. So the under SIR, if you cannot, this is called mapping. You're finding your name or your close relative's name in the 2002. They use a technique of mapping. So if you're unable to map yourself, then you, in the second stage, you put in something called under adjudication. There's a list called
Yes.
under adjudication. So there's nothing to be alarmed about it, because so I was also taking it very easy, because even if you are not mapped, it's not a big issue, because if once you're put in the under adjudication list, the Election Commission of India has prescribed 11 documents, out of which you have to produce only any one of them. So one of the documents prescribed is your matriculation certificate, your school living certificate. So I produced mine, which is issued by the Kerala government, Kerala Education Department, my class 10 certificate. So that was given. So when after that, there has not been any official communication. I suspect that there is something called logical discrepancies. It's a yardstick that was applied here, which means the
So
spelling
you
reason is
submitted your matriculation certificate after you were put in the under adjudication category. You submitted your matriculation certificate, which is
certificate.
one of the 11 documents accepted in the SIR process.
Yeah, it is on, except in the SIR. But when the
Yes.
final list came out, my name was not there. It is written excluded.
Yeah.
No reason has been conveyed to me, but I suspect this logical discrepancy yardstick was applied, which means whether there's any spelling mismatch. And I also think there must have been some spelling mismatch. I deliberately use the word mismatch because you can call it a mistake. Because in
Mm.
India, there are no standardized English spellings.
Mm.
We belong to India and we have Indian language. Our names are Indian language names, not English
Yeah.
Western names. So there cannot be standardized English name. So it's possible that my father's name, like for example, is Ramadas. Ramadas can be spelled in multiple ways with double S, with MO, D, O, and all that. So so I don't know whatever my name also could have been. It's Raja Gopal, but it can be pronounced. Some people write it Raj Gopal. So when they write to me, very educated. We can't say they're making a mistake. Then someday they say Rajagopalan, then they say Rajagopala. So
Mm. Yeah.
Indian names it's possible. So even then that means I've been deleted from the voters list, so I could not vote. But still, there was another window of grievance is open because Supreme Court has said 19 tribunals should be set up and they should look into it. So my
Mm.
appeal is pending before the tribunal. The problem is, so are 33 lakh other appeals. So
So that's the
33,
important point you're making, sir, there, because a lot of people said that the fact is that the tribunals never came up when the voter lists were frozen. Very few appeals were actually heard
yes,
in
I'm
those
coming to that.
tribunals.
Yeah. In fact,
That's
today we did not have a steady number till now. 33 lakh is the number of 33 to 32 lakh is today's Calcutta edition of the Times of India. They have a front page report. It says in the past 100 days, the rate of the clearance, the taking up the appeals, have been just 1%. That means, according to Times of India's calculation, it will take over 25 years, over
yeah.
25 years to clear this whole list. The entire list, the way things are going, unless it is scaled up dramatically and massively, it will take 25 years. So this was parallelly running, and at the same time, I had applied my passport, which was originally issued from the very same address, this address, in 2005. It was originally issued, the new passport, my first passport in my life was issued here in Calcutta in this address in 2005. In this very home, police verification was done. Then after 10 years, it got expired. So I got in 2015, it was renewed again, applied from the same address, police verification done in the same address and delivered at the same address. So this time also in 2025 October, my passport got expired, and within 3 months, that February, I applied for the renewal from the very same address. So when the police verification, so everything was smooth. Biometrics took less than 20 minutes, I think. Very fast, in fact, here. But then when the police verification came, police told me that your name will not be cleared because it has been removed from my police verification for passport renewal will not be given because my name has been deleted from SIR, and unless and until it is restored, my name is restored on the voters list, we will not clear it. Now comes a very crucial part. So then I repeatedly requested them, okay, in that case, please show me what is the basis of this application of
Mm.
linking SIR data to passport renewal. Because as far as I am aware of it, Election Commission has repeatedly assured the Supreme Court that data collected from SIR will be used exclusively for the purpose of correcting the voters list. And the
And it
court
will
also
not have bearing on any other bureaucratic processes.
yeah, but the court also very clearly said, in case during while you processing the data, you come across any citizenship related suspicion, like there can be some suddenly a person without any data or something
Yeah.
like that, nothing is available. So that kind of, if you make a list of it, and within 4 weeks, you must send it to the Union Home Ministry, and only the Union Home Ministry can decide. As far as I know, it's all almost 4 weeks are over, but I don't know whether they have submitted such a list. We don't know. Publicly, we don't know whether yet. So when the Supreme Court has made such a order, how can a city police force, the Calcutta police force, a city police force, a city police force is saying that they will not give clearance for my verification until and unless as my name is restored to the voting list. And they could, when I asked this, they said no, this is our rule. This is all we can tell you. So so this is all verbal. Okay, so that's also very crucial. I was told about this on May 20th. Nearly a month later, on June 17th, by speed post, registered post, as well as through email. The regional passport office Calcutta sent me a printed written statement very clearly saying they have received adverse police report against my application for the
Mm.
reason. And then reason
Yeah.
they put the number one, and they've said deleted voter list deletion from SIR. That is the sole reason they have. So that is where it stood, and then they asked me to book an appointment and approach them, regional passport office. On June 17th, the day I got the mail, I sought an appointment. I've been given an appointment on July 17th,
Yeah.
which is again another 15 days.
One. Mm.
Yeah. So that is where it stood. And then what happened was after that, Thursday, I think, yeah, last week Thursday, one I was part last year. I was part of a journalism award jury. I was a
Mm.
jury member. The same committee this time last Thursday called me and requested to be the member this time too. So then I wrote a very detailed letter to them saying that I won't be able to do that, and why? Because I'm chasing paperwork. I'm caught up in complete paperwork, and I'm also very disturbed about the whole thing, and I don't think I am in a state of mind to judge. Plus, I was also very disenchanted or disappointed with the way the mainstream media was covering the whole SIR report. They were, yeah,
Yeah, it's just a small introduction there, and we'll come to the media coverage of the issue
yeah,
and how this issue was completely kind of ignored in the media and the coverage of the SIR as well. But you've also had to pay a very personal price for this because you couldn't attend your daughter's wedding because your
yeah,
passport was not
yeah.
renewed on time.
That
So
was,
despite having a US visa, you couldn't attend your daughter's wedding because your passport couldn't be renewed because of the SIR exclusion.
yeah. I had taken a US visa in 2024. Then they granted me a 10-year visa, both my wife and I. Here, what had happened was, on April 17th was my daughter's wedding. But I should not blow it out of proportion. I must also say that I had not taken my ticket or anything to go to America, and I had not finalized my travel plan. Whereas my wife's travel plan was finalized, and because she already had she has taken the ticket, and she could go and she could attend also. So mine, I think it is just a calendar coincidence. It so happened that my daughter's wedding also too. I don't also it happened at that time. I don't think any authority deliberately prevented me from, because I
Yeah.
hadn't. To be honest, I hadn't finalized any plan to go, and also the wedding went off very smoothly. So I don't think. See, why if we focus too much on this wedding issue, it becomes an individual's problem. That's what I wanted to say is it is why I raised it. That's what I earlier said. I did not make it public, and it came. I wrote a letter, and from the letter, the recipients only asked me permission to share the relevant details, and it was they shared with my
But the
permission.
fact, Mr. Rajagopal, that the choice, you've written in your article as well that you might not have finalized your plan vis-a-vis traveling to San Francisco and attending your daughter's wedding, but the choice was taken away from you because of
Exactly.
this bureaucratic limbo.
Correct.
Be that as it may, like you said, you don't want to make it an individual story because you end your article as well with a very powerful line that in the season of soccer, your story represents how a common man has sort of become like a football who is
Yeah.
kicked from one office to another, whether it is the entire SIR process, then the tribunal hearings never happening that because the tribunals never came up before polling even began, and then the entire passport fiasco. So, do you think that we're increasingly becoming a republic of paperworks? Because here you have a citizen who has been a journalist, who has been in public service in that sense, who has had a father who has been the former secretary of the Gandhi Smarak, who's been very much part of the public space, the social consciousness. So, in that sense, do you think we are becoming a republic of paperworks where kagas determine your Indianness in a sense?
Exactly. That is the most worrying part. We are becoming a country of documentation has become the most important. We are being chained to documentation, so to speak. Because if we don't have a document, I don't have any identity. I don't have any existence. For example, I will tell you how ridiculous it has become. Because of all this, you will not believe me. I am sitting here in my mornings begin. I check what happened to my status of the appellate tribunal, my appeal. So it will show pending. Then I'll check what is my passport status. It's saying pending. Then what do? My mother, I found my my mother passed away when I was 10, in 1978. So obviously, I don't even know her date of birth, because a 10-year-old child
Yeah.
cannot be expected to remember all this. Then my father also passed away. I could not. So what happens? I now I am busy tracking my mother's classmates, which is also slightly because she would have been 83 had she been alive, and there are not too many people, and it's difficult to track them down over phone sitting here. But still, I managed to find a classmate of hers. Then, because I wanted to find out which year she passed out of school. Then I wrote to that school asking whether they can check. Then I realized it was 1959. Whether check the register of 1959, whether it's there, whether my name is there. The school was so good that all officials need not be so cooperative, but they were very cooperative. They found the register. Then the headmistress gave me a written certificate also saying that she did study there. Now I have submitted it to the state examination center, because why I am doing all these things. I need some proof that my mother lived. So that the matriculation certificate is there, so that I can submit it to the corporation where I was born, the municipality corporation, that is Trivandrum, where I was born. Because my birth certificate, I do have a birth certificate, but my mother's name is Radha Devi, whereas in the birth certificate is written Radha Bai. Just a Devi and Bai, but it is a discrepancy. So, we should be grateful that in 1968, when it was birth certificates were not mandatory, then birth registration,
Yeah.
that happened only in 1970 April 1st.
Yes.
So, because of that, till now, we were a very liberal country. So our matriculation certificate, whoever has cleared matriculation, their matriculation certificate was taken as a birthright. But suddenly my matriculation certification, I don't know why SIR didn't accept. Possibly I told there must be some spelling. Like my birth certificate, there is a spelling mismatch, Radha Bai and Radha Devi. But just
Yeah.
to clear this one word, you see, it's still in the process. So many. Like what I just want to tell you how documentation has completely dominated my life with this thing. Now,
What you're
in the
saying
last
is very, very, very important, Mr. Rajgopal, because it's almost like you're living the burden of having to prove that you are Indian, and nobody should have to prove they're Indian. I mean, it's the entire conversation about illegal immigrants getting the right to vote, etc., is a separate conversation. But genuine Indian citizens living the burden of having to prove their citizenship, having to prove their Indianness, is very unfortunate. And like you're saying, I can feel the pain, and the trauma of having to wake up every day and kind of sift through records, government records, old records, and just trying to furnish some proof of your Indianness. That burden is extremely unfortunate.
Exactly, the burden is shifted. See, earlier till now, it was if somebody feels that you are not a citizen, it was up to them to prove. The person who is making the charge, or the agency that being the charge, or the government. If the government suspects that I am not an Indian, it was up to the government to prove. Now it is up to every Indian to prove that they are an Indian. Every Indian of voting age, it has become incumbent upon it. It is not that for anything. Even if you don't want to prove you have to prove you're an Indian, because otherwise you don't get your voting right. It's a very, very unfortunate situation. I don't know where it will and this was also a moment I realized that as individuals we are absolutely helpless, because I did not know what to do for 100 days. Actually, from biometrics to last week, it was 100 days the day I wrote that thing. It accidentally happened. It's not that I was waiting for the 100th day to write on it. Just so happened. So for 100 days, it was a realization that I'm absolutely helpless, which is also a kind of I think I deserved that. It was a slap in the face. I also deserved as a member of a privileged group, because one lady journalist correctly pointed out to me that see, the rejection is a fact of life for all hundreds of millions of Indians for centuries, every waking hour. It is not for you. It has happened only with ones with SIR and ones with passport, but for millions of Indians and millions of people all over the world, rejection is a
An
fact of
everyday
life.
reality.
Right, and you people who are in possession of some kind of privilege, people of voices, they are not bothered about it. You are busy writing about playing a World Cup football and IPL and other thing, but these are the, which is also I accept it completely, because I am also equally guilty of that.
That's an interesting point you're making. That the elite, as it were, was kind of living uh, deracinated and in their own little cocoons and kind of away from this reality that millions of Indians face every day. But like we were talking earlier as well, Mr. Rajagopal, that we're becoming increasingly a republic of paperworks, whether it's proving your gender identity or getting your voting rights. It's now all on the it has become the jurisdiction of a quasi judicial officer, some bureaucrat or not even a bureaucrat, and some
Yeah.
officer who will decide whether you are entitled to rights that the constitution guarantees. But would you also say that this could perhaps be a witch hunt at all? Because you have been an outspoken critic of the establishment. Many of your headlines and your work at the Telegraph was, infamous for how anti-establishment it was, and though that's a different debate. It's a job of a journalist to be slightly adversarial as far as the government is concerned. But would you say at all that this could be a witch hunt?
See, till Monday evening, I wouldn't have said so because without evidence, we can't make such allegation. I didn't have any evidence to suggest that I was being targeted, and also it did not make sense for it doesn't make sense for someone to target me because I'm out of the so-called out of the game because I from 2023 I'm no longer the editor, and 2025 I'm not a journalist. I'm a former journalist now. I'm not a It is not just a former editor. I'm a former journalist also because I'm not associated with journalists. So why would anyone want to? So I was under that impression till Monday evening. But Monday evening, a person associated closely with the government, is in an advisory capacity. He tweeted that in relation because the editors of India, Editors Guild of India,
Yes.
issued a statement highlighting my issue, and this gentleman's tweet was in response to that. Response, and he said, "Where was this Editors Guild of India when this Rajagopal was spewing venom and almost every day on the prime minister, ridiculing him and also insulting some of the ministers?" So where was that tweet? So which several people, not me, several people in the social media pointed out that. Do you need any more evidence? That because I have been sort of constantly saying I don't have any evidence. So people are asking, you are saying you have no evidence. Do you need any more evidence? And so also others pointed out, is that a criteria for not losing citizenship in India that you no, don't criticize the prime minister? Is that the criteria? Is that what the gentleman saying? So the only evidence evidence for my suspicion, even this is not established, this person's tweet. Otherwise, I don't have any evidence that I have been targeted because it doesn't make sense. You see, if I'm in spite of this, I am being targeted. It talks of somebody who was a sociopath because you don't gain anything. But when I was in the profession, I know you get you to get him out of the thing, you can do this. But even after that, if somebody is still bent on targeting that, it doesn't speak of a healthy mind.
Right. As we end, Mr. Rajagopal, some of your headlines also we were showing. Let's talk a little bit about the media's coverage of not just your issue, but the SIR issue overall. You were, of course, known for very straightforward, hard hitting headlines and editorials, but how do you see the issue, the coverage of the SIR issue across media, whether it's mainstream media, even the print media hasn't been, many have pointed out, very incisive. Your own former newspaper was criticized for covering the election results and all the coverage post the Modi, the Suvendu Adhikari government took shape in West Bengal. So, how do you see the coverage of the SIR issue in
Yeah.
general?
So I think, as far as I'm concerned, I will make a very clear distinction between new media and legacy media, traditional media, so-called newspapers and television channels on one side, and the new media. New media, I think the coverage has been excellent considering the resources, even otherwise. Even, for example, I have to mention some. I hope it's not against your policy. I have to mention Reporters Collective. Excellent reporting on this thing, the Wire, Scroll, News Laundry, News Minute, several item which actually first published my letter. All of them with their available, so they've done an excellent job. Whereas with the traditional legacy media, which still has large resources at their command, I was very disappointed by their cover. They have covered it. I'm not saying that they have not covered. It's largely but individual cases and without any overall focus and without seeking answers from the government. That is also as emphatically as should have been sought. And the main problem, I think, with this is when SIR began in Bihar and it entered Bengal, my conversation with several working journalists gave me the impression that they all treat it as a poor Indian's problem, or a marginal Indian's problem, or a minority Indian's problem, not a middle class issue. And
Right.
as we know, the most of the legacy media, traditional, especially the English media, they cater only to the upper middle class, or that section. So for them, they were. I got the impression that they were treating this as, though some poor people will be affected, some minorities will be affected, some infiltrators will be affected. That is why I am saying so is I was shocked by the level of ignorance among even senior editors about SIR. They had absolutely no idea. They were not even aware of how many stages, what you are supposed to, what are the 11 documents, why it is not 12 the document. That people may, but otherwise the general and logical discrepancy, why it's unfair, all these things. Because logical discrepancy, now I hear that each state is having its own number of logical discrepancy. Bengal, it was 4. Somebody told me Karnataka. Yeah, yeah, how can this, and these are the issues where if we are saying and the union, a central agency is doing it, how can there be different yardsticks? So when I spoke to them, I was sure there were absolutely no idea about those things, because they were not interested. Why you are disinterested? So that was why I particularly said I was very disappointed and disenchanted with the mainstream media. But I will not say media. In fact, the word I am saying now. That even the phrase mainstream media has to be changed. I think the new media is slowly becoming the mainstream. The other one is becoming very confined to, and it's niche media, actually niche. They cater to a particular class, but not to every Indian. They don't do that anymore.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, Mr. Rajagopal, if you had to write a front page headline for your story, if you were still the editor of the Telegraph, in true Telegraph style, what would you have said?
No, I'm very sorry. Somebody else. I'm very sorry about it, because see, just give me 1 minute ago. I don't have a headline. The headlines never come on its own. It's always. I keep. A lot of people think that we write the headline first and write the copy. It's never like that. The copy is written, and I need at least I am not a very. I need a team for me. It's actually I am taking all the credit from them. It's my team that is who. So you need the atmosphere of the newsroom. You need the back and forth in a newsroom. You are repartees. You need arguments. Most of the headlines that have caught people's attention have come from such an atmosphere. It's like a furnace. It's like a cauldron. You need that. You can't just. At least I cannot just sit there and think a headline. And so I need a newsroom atmosphere to say that. So I'm very sorry about it. I won't be able to do justice to
Right.
it.
Mr. Rajgopal, thanks very much for speaking to us, and thanks very much for speaking out, because your story really captures what millions of Indians are going through. And like you said, 33 lakh Indians are still awaiting a tribunal hearing. Thanks very much, Mr. Rajgopal, for speaking to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.